Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype. Although on a day like today, it's not hype, it is genuine concern as we're going to be seeing a very rare event take place across the southeast. Let's go ahead and get into what we're tracking here for today as we're looking at a rare tornado outbreak across the southeast with the potential for some long track, powerful tornadoes. So we're talking about something you typically see in the spring. So to see something like this in the end of December, yeah, it's truly a rare event. Then we're going to be talking about the New Year's winter's blast that's still coming. And this is starting to look particularly dangerous as well because we're looking at a bigger part of the country that can be impacted here with below zero temperatures. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then we'll talk about how long we think that cold air is going to last. We got a new update here from the Climate Prediction Center folks as far as how January is starting to shape up. Now, before we get into this, first, I do want to thank all the new subscribers to the channel. And if you'd like important and critical updates like this, please hit that subscribe button right now so you can receive future updates. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our latest satellite imagery here. We do have some thunderstorms here across portions of Texas and Louisiana. We've got a little warning down there in Louisiana this morning. Some storms along the Gulf Coast. Looking pretty active here on the West Coast. Got rains falling from basically Washington State all the way down into Northern California. Starting to see a little bit of ridging here taking place out here in the Pacific. I think some indications of some of the pattern change that's going to be coming our way here as we head toward New Year's across the United States. Look at all the fog in here. My Lord, this is the indication of just how mild it is here in the middle of the country. Here's our severe thunderstorm watch, our first of the day here across Texas. It'll be replaced by tornado watches across Louisiana and to Mississippi. We'll take a look at the Storms Prediction Center stuff here in a second. Winter weather out here in the Intermountain region, a little bit of winter weather advisories in the Northeast as well. So looking at our surface map, it is very mild. Look at this. This is all rain up here across the Great Lakes. It's almost 40 degrees up across the UP of Michigan. That's unbelievably warm. And it's very mild down here. We're at morning temperatures here in the upper 60s and 70s down here along the Gulf Coast. It's just amazing to see that. That's the fuel for the fire as we got some very strong jet energy that's going to be swinging on out of here. And that's what's going to set these and fire up these storms as we're going to have a squall line that's going to be racing across the southeast. Again, very stormy out here on the West Coast. So obviously from Washington State down into California with heavy rains and the higher mountain snows out there toward the west. Let's talk about some of these storms. We've got this one severe thunderstorm warning out here already. I got another tornado warning. First one already just popping up here on this important update already this morning, just to give you an idea of how volatile the atmosphere already is. And we're not even into the main threats today, folks. Okay, this is just out ahead of advance of this storm system. So that's giving me an indication, boy, we're going to be in store for a very busy late afternoon and into tonight with these thunderstorms already flaring up and already getting warnings like that here for this morning. So let's go ahead and take a look at the latest here. I'm going to go ahead and sit down over here and we'll take a look at what we're expecting here with the breakdown. Okay, now what you're currently seeing is a moderate risk for severe weather. We're covering a pretty good area here from parts of Alabama back over toward Louisiana. You got that enhanced area there in the orange. So again, this is the target zone that we're going to be looking at like for severe weather. So let's go ahead and break this down by the category so you can see the different categories we're talking about here with this. First, we'll take a look at the tornado outbreak area here. Again, in that red zone. So we're talking about a 15% chance of seeing some, not only tornadoes, again, these could potentially be long track tornadoes as well. Obviously, there's going to be a large hail threat with this, although for this time of year, it's not really that bad, about 15%. And then, of course, the wind threat is also going to be very high with this in that same, again, that enhanced and in that target moderate zone where we could be seeing some very strong gusty winds over 70 miles per hour potentially in this zone. And then this is eventually going to move on off toward the east. It'll move off and not quite as bad, but the Carolinas will be under the gun as we go Sunday into Monday there as that storm system begins to push off toward the east. So it's going to be a pretty volatile day here as this system begins to get winding up here. Obviously with this, we're talking about excessive rainfall here, some isolated flooding potentially, although this system will be moving. So again, we're talking about localized flooding in this zone right here. Also looking at localized flooding out here on the West Coast as well across Oregon and California, possibility for today. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the hazards outlook here, long range. Again, once the pattern change starts to take place, we're talking about the Great Lakes getting fired up with the potential for some winter weather there. We'll see windy conditions here in the middle of the country, and then we're still looking at the heavy rain threat in the 3 to 7 day outlook here for the middle of the country. So things are going to be getting pretty crazy. So again, recapping that for today, that severe weather outlook, the moderate risk, we're talking about Jackson, Mississippi, Monroe, Louisiana, we're talking Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Alexandria, Meridian, and then enhanced zone, we're talking Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Mobile, Lafayette, and Tuscaloosa, all in that enhanced zone. So again, as the storm pushes further off toward the east, and deeper in Alabama and Georgia, the system will be weakening a bit, but still will have a pretty powerful punch as it moves into Alabama and into Georgia. So let's go ahead and talk about the models. We're going to look at the latest short-range models here. We're going to watch this thing begin to develop. Again, we're going to watch this zone back in here as we're going to watch this system begin to materialize and get organized here as we head into the day. Watch that timestamp in that upper right-hand corner here. So through the morning hours, we're going to have some isolated pockets of severe weather through Texas and Oklahoma. Obviously, we got that severe thunderstorm watch that's out there currently. And then we're going to watch this squall line get developed here as we head into the late afternoon and into the evening hours. So by the time we head into, say, 5, 6 o'clock, that's when things will start to get really interesting here as we get the squall line developing. You'll have these interactions with stuff that'll form out ahead of it with some individual supercells potentially there. And as they interact and bump, that's when you can get those, obviously, those tornadic systems to kind of develop. But this thing's going to race here through central Mississippi as we head toward 9 o'clock. So we're talking about a nighttime event. So, folks, you need to be very careful in this area. Make sure you have those weather apps ready to go. Make sure you got those weather radios ready to go. Have a plan. Know that what you're going to do here as this comes on through. So if you get any tornadoes in your area, you know what you need to do. Again, that interior hallway closet's where you want to head here on the first floor. These storms will be crossing into Alabama around the Mississippi-Alabama line going into midnight 1 in the morning. So again, this is a nighttime event. It's a very scary event here as this moves across Alabama. It looks like it will be crossing into Georgia by about 4 or 5 o'clock across the northwestern zones and coming on down across areas of Florida as well, going into the early morning hours. So this will be moving into Georgia as we go into the Sunday morning area. Still a pretty good, powerful punch there, at least looking at the reflectivity here, reflecting on the HRRR model here as this continues to move off toward the east. And then it'll move into areas of the Carolinas as we go in throughout the day on Sunday. And this will begin to exit as we go late in the day on Sunday and into Sunday night. So that is our time window right now for this. So I will be doing some live broadcasts starting late this afternoon and going into tonight as we watch this system begin to develop here later today. So again, a very dangerous situation for today. Stay tuned for those updates and watch for my live broadcasts where I'll be simulcasting on both Facebook and on YouTube. Now, that's our first event we got to watch. Now we got to talk about winter weather because that is also looking a little bit dangerous as when it comes to temperatures. Maybe not so much in the way of big snowstorms, but the temperatures really have me concerned. Let's talk about this pattern change we got coming at us. Okay, first we got the jet stream here. This is our little wobble here that's bringing us our severe weather. This has got a negative tilt here, and what that means is we got spin to the atmosphere. So we got pretty good wind shear there to help with that as well. We got changing winds with heights coming into tomorrow morning. So when you see that kind of setup there where you got the winds doing this number here like that across the south, that's called diffluence, you're going to see a tornadic event, that's for sure. Okay, now once the system kicks on out, we'll be turning our attention to the developing change in the overall jet stream as we go in toward the first. Okay, so we get our first little cool down here heading toward the first. So we're going to start tapping some cold air coming on down. What has happened is that the stratosphere warming has pretty much caused the polar jet stream to pretty much collapse. The cold air is just kind of sitting there. There's no thing locking it into place. And we're going to see the polar jets, the polar express, really the polar low vortex that we refer to in media circles, is really going to drop down here as we look long term. So we got a nice configuration here where you got this very active jet flow here. We're going to first bring in the cold shots here toward the fourth here across the eastern half. Then we get maybe a brief warm up briefly, and then we get another surge coming down here. And here you start seeing the first indications here of this polar vortex that's going to drop down into the lower 48. At least that's what the European model long range is showing. Again, this is 10 days out. Anything beyond 10 days is extrapolation, but the model trends have been there. This has been pretty consistent here, showing some sort of dump here. And boy, here comes the polar express right here. This is your polar vortex dropping into the lower 48 here as we head toward January 9th here. And this is going to be some very cold air. In fact, it may set up a very rare event. I'll show you here in a second. You got to watch this. Really interesting on the potential snow outlook here. But this is some bitterly cold air. Very powerful jet stream here, diving way far to the south, and it's going to lock in a big part of the country with some below normal temperatures there as we go through the forecast. That low just kind of sitting there. It looks like it kind of retreats up a little bit toward the tail end of the run. So let's go ahead and talk about the precipitation. Let's break this down again as we're going to watch this powerful storm system swing through the southeast, going through Saturday and Sunday, and this moves on off toward the east here. Then we're going to see the pattern begin to change a little bit here as we start to see that 540 line, that freezing line here, start to come further south. Again, you saw how warm it is today out there across a big part of the country. The cold air is going to be coming back at us, and it'll be doing it in waves. It's going to be doing it in waves, folks. So as this comes on through, we get a little bit of snow here across the northeast as we head in toward Wednesday, heading to January 1st. That freezing line coming right back down toward the south once again. A little bit of snow is out here in the west as well as we welcome the new year going into January 1st. And then after that, it just gets progressively worse with the cold air. So we got a little bit of snow there across portions of the Appalachians and the Great Lakes. Oh, those two are also going to get fired up here pretty good, by the way, with that cold air coming across. Great Lake totals, we might see something similar to what we saw back in November. Just put it that way. That the air is just so bitterly cold. Got another system coming out here on the west coast as well as we're looking at January 3rd going into the 4th there. And as we go forward here, here's our next storm system coming on through. This is bringing another cold shot here. We'll get some winter weather here across the Great Lakes, across New England. We got some snows out here in the west, the cold air coming on down. And then we're going to watch that polar vortex really start to drop down as it brings that cold air down into the lower 48. It really dumps down here. Going in as we go toward the 8th and into the 9th. I mean, this is some very, very cold core right there that is coming down here. You see in the snows into some parts of the country that don't see it. Again, this is long range, folks, subject to change. This is still 288 hours out. But again, when it comes to a polar vortex drop down like that, the models really don't handle it very well. We'll have to see. This is going to obviously change, but this is some very, very cold air that's coming on down here into the lower 48 here. The cold core here sitting over the Ohio River Valley. We're talking below zero temperatures here. Look at the 540 line. The freezing line's all the way down here near Tampa. It is way far to the south. In fact, we talk about Great Lake snows. We may actually see ocean effect snows. Yeah, that cold air blows over that ocean. You may see actually snows developing over the ocean because of that. Like, that's what this is right here. But this is all ocean effect snows because just how bitterly cold this air is that's going to set up here across the 3rd. This is going to be something I would compare this to probably the outbreak in around Christmas time of 2022. I think it's similar in scope as far as that if you want a comparison there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the thunderstorms in our K index here. We do have the thunderstorm threat here coming across the southeast. Obviously, that's what we're tracking here for today. There may be another opportunity for some thunderstorms, although this next one I don't think will be quite as bad as we look out further out here on the models. It's pretty quiet for the most part, but we do have a brief warm up here. Here's another system here. This will be coming in toward maybe the 5th and 6th of January. I have to watch for this one as well. Don't know if I'll have a severe component with that yet, but something to watch. We may have some thunderstorms with that little system coming on through as well as that Arctic air sets up across the nation. So we got the severe weather for Saturday, Sunday, and looking ahead toward January 6th, potentially there as well. All right, let's look at the rainfall totals here. Again, we're going to talk about this. The good news with the storms across the south is that it's going to be moving at a pretty good clip. So over the next 72 hours here, this is the rainfall totals here. I'll stop it right about there. As you can see, pretty good rains here across the eastern third of the United States. Not too bad, though, because the system is moving. We got heavy rains out here on the west coast as well. And then we'll take this on out to 240, go out to 10 days here. And you see the system's definitely getting more active here as we're getting more and more rain here across portions of the Ohio River Valley, obviously the southeast, and still some very heavy rains down the west coast. That's been consistent over the last month there. Still dry in the southwest. That's also been the trend here over the last month as well. Let's talk about the snows here. Again, we're going to look at the 72-hour here total here first. We'll stop at 3 days through the weekend basically right there. So we got some pretty good snows out here in the west. A little bit showing up here across the Great Lakes, but that's going to increase big time as we get past the 1st. So watch what happens as we go past the 1st here. We'll start getting the lake effect kicking in across the northeast there, and definitely starting to see swaths of snow here. Starting to really pick up here, even across the high plains here, which haven't seen a whole lot of snow. They're going to get a nice little snow there going to the 6th and into the 7th of January. And then what I'm going to do, I want to show this only to show it because it's so rare. I don't see it that often here. I'm going to take this all the way out to the run here. Look what happens with this. Look what happens with this all the way out here. This is what you call ocean effect snows. Same concept as the Great Lakes, picking up moisture off the lakes and dumping it as snow. It's even doing it out here in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, that is so rare to see something like that because just how cold that air mass is, okay? And the Great Lakes totals are just off the charts once again. So again, we will be measuring feet of snow. I think regardless, because just how cold this cold core is, I'm pretty confident we're going to get some pretty heavy snows there across the Great Lakes once again. Whether this stuff here is going to happen or not will be dependent on where that low sets up, but it's definitely something rare you don't see very often. Let's talk about the temperature profile again. Again, look how mild we're starting this again over the entire continent here. Very, very warm, but that's going to change quickly as we go in toward the first. So as we go in toward the first, we get our initial cool down here, heading across the east. You start seeing, again, less and less red here across the United States, seeing the cold air really building here across portions of Western Canada, holding on to the mild stuff there in Eastern Canada, but that's going to be very short-lived, especially if that big low gets fired up here. So we get that one cold snap there, and then look what happens here, folks. We're talking some bitterly cold air. We're talking, this is 30-plus degrees below normal here. Coming around here. This is heading out toward the 8th of January. So again, this is subject to change. This is still 10, 11 days out. But again, the consistency of some sort of cold outbreak coming. The level of how bad it's going to be still remains to be seen. I think once we get within about a week, we'll have a better idea. But this is bitterly, bitterly cold. Look how much of the country here going toward the 10th is seeing temperatures here looking below normal here. We're going to have big swaths of the country also seeing below zero temperatures. In fact, let me show you that real quick. I'm going to go and show you the actual temperatures itself, and you can just get an idea of how much of this country here. This is going toward, let me do it one more, going toward the 10th of January. 10th of January. All of this here is below zero temperatures. All of this. Okay, so we're talking about getting in North Alabama, North Georgia, potential, and that's the word, potential here, of seeing temperatures down below zero. So this could be an historic outbreak. But again, we got a long way to watch this, folks. I'm watching for model trends, and the trend has been there showing the cold air. Is this the level of the cold air? I don't know. We don't have a real big snowpack up in Canada or across the northern tier of the United States yet. So I see the air mass modifying to some degree. It has to, because the ground temperatures and stuff are so warm. But we're going to watch that closely and see how that looks out. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's first take a look at the climate outlook here. That is showing this 6 to 10 day. So we're talking about January 2nd through the 6th here. Cold in the east, milder in the west. Now, going beyond this, going 8th through the 14th, showing that, again, pretty much the eastern half of the United States, milder in the west. This map could modify a little bit if the European verifies out. We may bring this back a little bit more because we saw the cold air was kind of cold over here and was coming down this way. So this map may change a little bit if the model consistency there. So we'll watch that closely. Now, as far as winter precipitation, not a big deal because we're kind of dry really from two zones. A little active up here across the north with the precipitation chances. And then as we go further out, now we're kind of near normal here. So again, areas that don't normally see snow, with this kind of outbreak coming in here, chances of snow are going to be there. Where it's going to fall yet, we don't know yet, folks. And this far out, it's just hard to say. But we're looking at a polar vortex visit. I've been watching this for about a week, looking at the global patterns here, and I really think it's going to happen. It's just getting the details worked out now. Where is that polar low set up, and where does the storm system set up for potential snowstorms, because they're going to be there as well. So very, very busy next few periods. Let me show you this real quick as well. This is the new 3 to 4 week outlook as well. You notice we're cold in the east, milder in the west, and there's your precipitation outlook, also taking you through January 11th through the 24th. So again, it looks like the month of January, which I think originally was showing was going to be above normal, doesn't look that way. It looks like most of the month's going to be looking below normal, and very active snowy period of potential there as well, with some record-breaking temperatures potentially in the works. But obviously, we got to get through this weekend, folks. We've got the severe weather here across the deep south. Hope folks are taking preparations, are paying attention. Obviously, the holidays have been going on. Hope folks are just really stay weather aware here. I will be doing live broadcasts later today as we will kind of watch these storms develop into tonight with that squall line coming on through. So please stay weather aware, and I will post something on that to give you an idea of the timing of when I'm looking to probably get underway. I'm thinking probably around 3 o'clock, and we'll just go until I can't do it anymore. So that's how we're looking. Again, hey, if you're new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please consider hit that subscribe button so you're notified when I do live broadcasts like this. And if you'd like to have this as part of your weather product, this is the weather daily I do 6 days a week. Please go ahead and hit that notification bell so you kind of get that in your YouTube feed on a daily basis. All right, yours truly going to be busy today. You guys take it easy. If you can stay safe, and we'll see you on the next update. Bye, guys.